Rami had been walking for hours through the strange alien forest. The air was cool and filled with the sound of soft winds moving through tall, spiral-shaped trees. Their leaves shimmered like tiny mirrors, reflecting the faint light from a pale sun above. It was his third day exploring this unknown planet, and he had not yet seen a single sign of intelligent life. He stopped near a cluster of glowing plants. Their petals opened and closed slowly, as if breathing. He knelt down, holding his small scanner to record details every time the petals opened. A soft hum came from inside, like a musical note. Rami smiled to himself. This planet was full of wonders, and each discovery made him more curious about what else might be out there. While focusing on the scanner, he noticed a faint rustle in the bushes behind him. At first, he thought it might be a small animal. He did not pay much attention and kept working. But the sound came again, this time closer. It was followed by another and another, from different directions. His fingers froze on the scanner. Rami slowly turned his head, scanning the forest. The trees stood silent. The bushes swayed gently, though there was no strong wind. Then, from between the trunks, shadows began to move. A figure stepped forward, tall, graceful, and unlike anything he had seen before. She had silver-blue skin that shimmered faintly in the light, and her hair was braided with small beads that glinted as she moved. Her clothing was made of overlapping plates that looked like they had been carved from crystal shells. Her eyes, sharp and bright, studied him without fear. 2 more figures appeared behind her, then 3 more, until Rami was surrounded. They all shared the same silver-blue skin, and all of them were women. Each carried a long spear with a curved blade. At the end, the weapons looked ceremonial yet sharp enough to be real. They spoke to each other in a language Rami could not understand. It was melodic, almost like singing, but there was a firmness in the tone. He held his hands out to show he meant no harm. The first woman stepped closer. She studied him for a moment, her eyes moving over his suit, his scanner, and his backpack. Then she said something to the others, and they nodded. One of them stepped behind him, gently but firmly taking his arms. She tied his wrists together with a smooth cord that felt warm, almost alive. Rami did not resist. He knew that sudden movements could be misunderstood. Instead, he kept his voice calm. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just exploring." He doubted they understood his words, but his tone might help. The group began moving, guiding him deeper into the forest. 2 walked ahead, 3 stayed behind, and 1 walked beside him, her spear always within reach. They moved quickly, yet with quiet steps, as if they had spent their whole lives walking these paths. As they went farther, the forest grew stranger. The trees here were even taller, and their trunks twisted upward in spirals. Huge flowers hung from thick vines, and whenever Rami passed them, the petals tilted toward him as though watching. Strange glowing insects floated in the air, their soft light painting the path in shifting colors. After some time, they reached a cliff. A river shimmered below, running between the roots of the giant trees. The women led Rami to a narrow bridge, made of woven branches and vines. It swayed slightly under their steps, but they crossed without fear. On the other side, Rami saw something that made him stop in surprise. Built high among the trees were large structures that seemed to grow out of the trunks themselves. Platforms, walkways, and homes were all connected by bridges, each one blending with the wood as though it had been shaped from living branches. The entire village seemed alive, glowing softly in the pale light. The women guided him up a spiral ramp that wound around a massive tree trunk. At the top, they entered a wide open space where several more women waited. They stopped talking when they saw him. Eyes of silver, gold, and pale blue turned toward the stranger. 1 woman stepped forward from the group. She was taller than the rest, her armor more detailed, with thin silver lines running through the crystal plates. Her hair was gathered into a high braid, decorated with green feathers. She carried no spear, but her presence was stronger than any weapon. She looked at him for a long moment, her gaze calm but searching. Then she spoke in their language, and one of the women beside Rami stepped forward, holding a small device. She pressed a button, and a soft light flickered between them. The tall woman spoke again. And this time Rami heard her words in his own language. The voice was clear, though slightly mechanical. "You are not from this place. Why have you come?" "To our sacred ground." Rami cleared his throat. "I'm an explorer. I study new worlds and learn about their life. I didn't know this was your land." She considered his answer. "Many come with hidden purposes. How can we know you speak?" "Truth, I have no weapons," Rami said. "Only tools for study. I mean no harm." The tall woman nodded slowly. "My name is Zira. I lead this tribe. Your coming is not a small thing. We must decide what is to be done with you." Her words made the other women murmur among themselves. Rami could feel their eyes on him, some curious, some cautious. Zira turned to the group. "He will stay here until a decision is made. No harm will come to him, but he is not free to wander." Two women stepped forward and motioned for him to follow. As they led him along a high walkway toward a smaller platform, Rami glanced back at Zira. She was still watching him, her expression unreadable. Somewhere deep in his mind, a thought formed. His arrival had changed something here, and whatever decision they were about to make, it would decide far more than just whether he could leave. Rami followed the two women along a narrow walkway made of strong vines. The bridge swayed gently, but they walked across it as if they were on solid ground. Below, the forest floor was far away, covered in layers of green mist. From up here, he could see more of the village, a network of platforms, bridges, and round structures that seemed to grow directly from the trees themselves. The air was filled with soft sounds, the creak of wooden walkways, the rustle of leaves, and the low hum of wind passing through hollow branches. Every now and then, a bird-like creature with wide, transparent wings glided between the trees. Its body glowed faintly in the pale light, like a living lantern. The women led him to a circular platform halfway up one of the largest trees. A small open structure stood there, its walls made of woven branches. Inside, a mat of soft leaves had been laid out. One of the women gestured for him to sit. "You wait here." The translation device repeated in his language. Rami nodded and sat down. They did not lock him in, but two women remained standing near the entrance, their spears held lightly at their sides. They were guards, but not unfriendly ones. From where he sat, Rami could see much of the village. Women moved across bridges, carried baskets of fruit like food, and worked on repairing nets made from shining fibers. Children played on a lower platform, climbing with ease, and laughing in a language he could not understand. There was no sign of any men. As the day went on, the air grew warmer. A woman came by with a wooden bowl filled with clear water. She handed it to him without a word, watching closely as he drank. Then she gave him a small piece of fruit that looked like a smooth red sphere. When he bit into it, sweet juice filled his mouth, and the inside tasted like a mix of berries and honey. Rami thanked her, though she likely did not understand. She gave him a small nod before walking away. After a while, a familiar figure approached. Zira, the leader. She stepped onto the platform with quiet confidence. The guards bowed their heads slightly before stepping back. "You are comfortable?" Zira asked through the device. "Yes," Rami replied. "Your people are remarkable. I have never seen a place like this." Her expression did not change, but there was a glint in her eyes. "This village has stood for many generations. We live in harmony with the trees. They grow with us, and we grow with them." She paused, looking over the edge of the platform at the winding bridges below. "We have kept ourselves hidden from the outside world for a reason." "I understand," Rami said. "I didn't mean to intrude." Zira studied him for a moment. "Perhaps not, but your presence here will still cause change. Already, the council speaks of you." Rami tilted his head. "Council? The elders," she explained. "They will decide if you are to stay, leave, or take part in what is to come." He frowned slightly. "What is to come?" Her gaze shifted to the far side of the forest, where the trees grew so close together that the sunlight barely touched the ground. "There is a journey we must make soon. It is a test of skill, courage, and wisdom. It is also a tradition as old as the village itself. Only one may go, and that one carries the honor and burden of the task. And you think, I might be that one? Rami asked carefully. Zira's voice was calm. Some believe you were sent here by fate. Others think your presence is a danger. There is no agreement. Before he could answer, another woman arrived on the platform. She wore simpler armor than Zira, but her steps were quick and purposeful. She spoke to Zira in their musical language, her tone firm. Zira turned back to Rami. You will come with me now. The council wishes to see you. Rami stood and followed her, the guards following him behind. They crossed two bridges and climbed a long spiral ramp until they reached a massive platform, built into the trunk of the largest tree in the village. Here, the air was cooler, and the light was softer. The platform was covered by a canopy of living leaves, filtering the sunlight into shifting patterns. In the center stood a great hall. Its walls curved like the inside of a seashell. The entrance was wide, with woven banners hanging from the top. Symbols and patterns, carved into the wood, glowed faintly as if lit from within. Inside, 12 women sat in a circle. Their armor and clothing varied, each marked with different colors and shapes. Their eyes turned toward Rami the moment he stepped in. Zira took her place at the head of the circle. This is the one who entered our sacred ground, she said in their language. Though the translation device allowed Rami to understand, you have seen him with your own eyes. Now speak your thoughts. One of the elders, with silver hair and deep blue eyes, leaned forward. He is not one of us. He cannot take part in our journey. The traditions are clear. Another shook her head. Tradition also says the one chosen must be capable. If he has skills we do not, perhaps he should go. A third spoke, her voice calm but firm. The risk is too great. He could be a spy. We do not know his people. The discussion began to grow more heated. Voices rose and fell. Hands gestured sharply, even without knowing their words. Rami could see the passion in their debate. Some glanced at him with curiosity, others with suspicion. Zira lifted her hand, and the hall grew quiet. We will speak more, but first, the stranger must speak for himself. Rami stepped forward, feeling all 12 pairs of eyes on him. He chose his words carefully. I did not come here to take anything from you. I am only here to learn. But if there is something I can do to help you, I will. My home is far away, and I have no reason to harm yours. The elders exchanged glances. Zira's expression remained unreadable. After a long pause, she spoke. We will decide soon. Until then, you will remain here as our guest. Do not fear. No harm will come to you while you are under my watch. With that, she signaled for the guards to lead him away. As he stepped out of the hall, Rami could still hear the faint murmur of voices behind him. The argument was far from over, and he had no idea which side would win. The next morning, Rami woke to the sound of voices drifting up from the lower platforms. The air was fresh and cool, carrying the smell of the forest's strange flowers. He sat up on the mat of leaves, stretching his arms. The guards who had watched over him through the night still stood at their posts, their spears held loosely but ready. One of them, a young woman with short hair and bright green eyes, handed him a small bowl of water and a piece of soft bread-like food. She said nothing, but her gaze held curiosity. Rami thanked her with a nod before eating dot from his place on the platform. He could see groups of women moving quickly across the walkways. Many seemed to be heading toward the great hall he had seen yesterday. The soft hum of their conversation grew louder as more gathered. Soon, Zira appeared at the entrance of his platform. She stepped forward with her usual calm grace. The council meets again today. The translation device said, they will speak about you. You may not join them yet, but you will hear much from where you are. What will they decide? Rami asked. Her eyes narrowed slightly, though her tone stayed even. That is uncertain. There are voices that wish to see you gone. Others think you should stay. Perhaps even take part in what lies ahead. Today, those voices will rise louder. She left without another word, heading toward the great hall. Rami remained where he was, but the sounds from the central platform carried clearly through the air. The voices of the elders could be heard, firm, passionate. and sometimes sharp. Even though he could not understand the alien language without the device, the rhythm and tone of their words told him enough. The debate had begun. Inside the great hall, 12 elders sat in a circle once more. Zira stood at the front, her hands resting lightly on the curved table before her. The silver-haired elder spoke first, her tone hard. The outsider is a danger to our ways. He has no place in our traditions. If we allow him to take part in the journey, it will weaken our honor. Another elder, younger, but with the same piercing gaze, replied quickly. Our honor is not in hiding from change. We face a challenge unlike any in recent memory. The path to the ancient site grows more dangerous each season. Perhaps this outsider can see paths we cannot. Murmurs rippled through the hall. A third elder, with golden markings across her cheeks, leaned forward. Even if he means no harm, his presence will distract us. The people are already whispering. The journey should be for one of our own, but the rules say nothing about who the chosen must be. The younger elder countered, only that. The one must complete the trial and return. It is skill and courage that matter, not bloodline. Zira listened in silence, her eyes moving from one speaker to another. One of the older elders, whose voice was deep and steady, raised her hand for silence. If the outsider is to be considered, he must prove himself. He must face our trials, as any of our people would. Let him be tested. If he fails, the matter is settled. If he succeeds, then the choice is in the hands of tradition itself. The idea caused more discussion. Some elders nodded in agreement. Others shook their heads firmly. From his platform, Rami could hear the rise and fall of their voices. He leaned forward, trying to catch more, but the words blended into one another. The guards glanced at him but said nothing. After nearly an hour, the sound of footsteps echoed along the bridge. The young woman with short hair returned, speaking briefly to the guards before stepping onto the platform. She handed Rami a strip of woven cloth marked with strange patterns. This is from Zira, she said, tapping the translation device. She says it is a sign that you are under her protection until the council's decision is made. Rami took the cloth carefully. It was soft yet strong, the patterns almost seeming to shift when he moved it in the light. Thank you, he said. The young woman hesitated before adding, many are watching you. Some hope you succeed. Others hope you leave. Which do you hope? Rami asked. She gave a faint smile, but did not answer, leaving the question hanging in the air. By midday, the council's meeting ended. Zira returned, her steps slower than usual. She stood before Rami, studying him for a moment. They have not decided yet, the translation device said. But there is now an agreement among some of them. If you are to be considered for the journey, you must take part in a trial. This will test your skill, your mind, and your ability to work with us. Rami nodded. When will this trial be? Soon, she replied. Perhaps tomorrow. Until then, you will remain here and rest. The trial will not be easy. She turned to leave, but Rami called after her. Zira, why do you speak for me? You could easily tell them to send me away. Zira paused, looking back at him with a calm expression. Because I believe the forest does not bring strangers without reason. You were meant to be here, whether for a good or a ruin. The trial will decide which. With that, she walked away, her figure disappearing among the bridges. As evening fell, the sky turned a soft silver, and tiny lights began to appear in the branches, glowing insects drifting lazily through the air from somewhere in the village. A low, melodic song rose, carried by many voices. It was slow and steady, like a river moving under moonlight. Rami sat on the platform, the strip of patterned cloth resting in his hands. He felt the weight of what was coming. Somewhere beyond the trees, a journey awaited, and the choice of whether he would take it was being fought over even now. But for the first time since he had arrived, he felt something other than fear or caution. He felt a spark of determination. If they wanted to test him, he would be ready. The next morning began with the sound of drums echoing through the forest. The deep, steady rhythm rolled through the air like distant thunder, waking the entire village. Rami sat up quickly, unsure if it was an alarm or a celebration. The guards, Outside, his platform did not look alarmed, so he relaxed slightly. Though his curiosity grew, a few moments later, Zira appeared. She stood at the entrance, her posture tall and composed. "You will come with me," the translation device repeated. In her calm voice, Rami followed her along the winding bridges, passing groups of women who were already busy with their daily work. Some carried baskets filled with food or tools. Others were repairing nets, weaving cloth, or sharpening spear-like weapons. Many glanced at Rami as he passed, their expressions mixed, some curious, some doubtful. Zira led him to a platform, high above the rest of the village. From here, the forest stretched endlessly in every direction, the tops of the spiral trees swaying gently in the wind. Beyond the nearest trees, Rami saw a dark stretch of land where the foliage grew so thick that sunlight barely touched the ground. Even from this distance, it looked different, wilder, more dangerous. "That is where the journey will go," Zira said, following his gaze. Rami studied the shadowy region. "What is there?" She was silent for a moment before answering. "An ancient site. Long ago, our ancestors built it with the first trees of this forest. It holds something important to us, something we must renew every generation." "What is it?" he asked. Her voice grew quieter. "The heart of the forest. It is a living crystal that gives strength to our trees and to our people. Without it, the forest will weaken, the insects will fade, the plants will wither, and the life we know will slowly end." Rami turned to face her. "And you need someone to go there to renew it." "Yes," Zira said. "The heart's energy is strong, but it does not last forever. The journey to the site is our most sacred tradition. It is dangerous, not because of any enemy, but because the path is alive. The forest tests the traveler with trials. Only one can go, and that person must return with the crystal's light renewed." Rami frowned slightly. "Only one. Why not send many?" She shook her head. "The path will not allow it. Our ancestors made this rule, and the forest accepts it. Those who tried to send more than one never return." They stood in silence for a moment, the wind moving softly through the leaves. Rami asked, "So the debate in the council is whether I should be that one?" Zira nodded. "Yes, some say fate brought you here for this. Others say the honor must remain with our own people. The one chosen is remembered for generations. It is not just a task, it is a legacy." He glanced again toward the shadowy forest. "And the dangers, what are they?" Her eyes held his steadily. "The dangers are different for each traveler. The forest changes the path. It tests weakness, fear, and doubt. Some face storms. Others face illusions, and some are forced to solve puzzles left by our ancestors. The forest knows the heart of the one who walks it." Rami let out a slow breath. "And you think I could survive that?" Zira did not answer immediately. "You have survived much already, I think. You move carefully. You watch before you act. But the trials of the heart are not about strength alone. They are about spirit." They began walking again, crossing a narrow bridge toward the great hall. Inside, the council waited. The elders sat in a half-circle, their eyes fixed on Rami. As he entered, Zira stood before them. The outsider has seen the forest and knows of the heart. He understands what is at stake. One of the elders, the silver-haired woman, spoke. "Understanding is not the same as readiness." Another, with gold markings on her cheeks, leaned forward. "If he is to be considered, he must face the trials we prepare for our own candidates. If he passes, the forest itself will decide." A younger elder spoke firmly. "It is the only fair way. We cannot send him without knowing he can walk the path." The council murmured in agreement, though not all voices were in favor. The deep-voiced elder raised her hand. "Then it is decided. Tomorrow at sunrise, the trials will begin. Rami will face them alongside our chosen warriors. The one who proves worthy will take the journey." Zira turned to Rami. "This is the choice you face. You may refuse, and we will send you from our land when the next moon rises. Or you may take the trial and accept whatever fate it brings." Rami thought for a moment. His mission on this planet had been to explore and record new life, not to take part in sacred rituals. Yet something about the challenge stirred a spark inside him. He had been an outsider all his life, moving from one place to another, never truly belonging anywhere. Here, at least, he had the chance to prove himself, not just to them, but to himself. "I'll take the trial," he said. A ripple of surprise passed through the council. The silver-haired elder's mouth tightened, but she said nothing. Then, "Prepare," Zira said. "You will need rest and focus. The trial will test more than your strength." That evening, Rami was moved to a larger platform near the center of the village. It was open to the air, with a mat of thick leaves and a small bowl of clear water beside it. The guards here were fewer, but many villagers passed by, glancing at him. Some offered small nods of respect. Others looked away quickly as night fell. The forest came alive with soft lights from the insects drifting between the branches. Somewhere in the distance, a slow drumbeat began again, but this time it was lighter. Almost like a heartbeat, Rami lay back, staring at the shifting patterns of leaves above him. He thought of the heart of the forest, of the path that would change for each traveler, and of the choice the council was making about him. Tomorrow, the forest would test him, and in that test, both he and the tribe would find their answer. The first light of dawn filtered through the towering spiral trees, painting the village in shades of silver and green. Rami stood on the high platform, stretching his arms and looking out at the forest. Today was the day of the trial. His stomach tightened, not from fear, but from anticipation. Two women approached him. One was tall, with silver-blue skin and a braid decorated with small beads. The other was shorter and lean, her movements quick and precise. Both carried no weapons, but wore simple armor for mobility. "You will follow us," the taller one said. Through the translation device, "The trial begins at the forest circle. Prepare yourself." Rami nodded and followed. As they moved along the narrow bridges, he saw villagers pausing to watch them pass. Some smiled faintly, others whispered among themselves. He felt the weight of their gaze but kept his focus on the path ahead. Soon, they arrived at a large clearing surrounded by towering trees. In the center was a circle of smooth stone, overgrown slightly with moss and vines. Several women already stood there, their faces calm but focused. Zira stepped forward to address the group. "The trial will begin," she said. "Each of you will face 3 challenges. The first test, perception. The second test, problem-solving. The third test, courage and adaptability. Those who succeed will continue. Those who fail must wait for another season." Rami looked around and saw the other candidates. All women from the tribe. They were poised, confident, and clearly skilled in their abilities. He felt a pang of doubt, but he pushed it aside. He had faced unknown environments before, and he knew he could rely on his observations and quick thinking. The first challenge was simple in description but difficult in execution. A series of floating platforms hovered a few feet above the ground, each moving slowly in a circular pattern. The task was to cross them without touching the ground. If a participant fell, they would be pulled back to the start and try again. Rami watched as the others stepped onto the first platform, moving with precision and balance. He took a deep breath, stepped forward, and placed his foot on the first platform. It swayed slightly under his weight, but he adjusted carefully. One by one, he moved across, his focus entirely on the rhythm of the platforms and the feel of his steps. When he reached the other side, a few of the elders nodded in approval. Rami felt a surge of confidence. The first challenge was complete. The second challenge tested problem-solving. A large stone structure had several movable pieces carved with symbols. Participants had to arrange the pieces in the correct pattern to reveal a path through the structure. Rami studied the symbols carefully. They were unlike anything he had seen before, but their arrangement followed a logical pattern. He noticed that some symbols repeated at regular intervals, forming sequences. With steady hands, he moved the pieces, testing each alignment. After several attempts, the structure shifted, revealing a hidden doorway. The younger candidates had solved the puzzle quickly, but Rami's methodical approach had worked as well. Some of the tribe's members clapped quietly, showing their approval without breaking the formal tone of the trial. The third challenge was the most demanding. The candidates were led into a part of the forest where the trees grew closer together. forming a natural labyrinth. The goal was to reach a small pool at the center while avoiding natural obstacles and following subtle signs left by the elders. The forest itself seemed alive, testing intuition and courage. Rami moved carefully, keeping his senses sharp. He noticed patterns in the movement of vines and the way the light shifted through the branches. He avoided stepping on certain moss-covered roots, which seemed to trigger small, harmless but startling traps, falling leaves, sudden bursts of wind, or slippery stones. Each obstacle tested both agility and awareness. Along the way, he encountered Lena, a young warrior from the tribe, who had taken the lead. She moved with grace, but she paused when she saw him. "Careful," she said softly. "The forest watches those who hurry." Rami nodded, keeping pace with her. Together, they navigated tricky paths, crossed small streams on narrow logs, and avoided patches of quicksand like moss. At times, they had to climb twisted branches to reach higher ground. The forest seemed to respond to their movements, as if aware of their intentions. After what felt like hours, they reached the center of the labyrinth. A small pool reflected the light filtering through the treetops. Its water was clear and still. Around it, smooth stones formed a circle. The challenge required each participant to take a piece of a carved crystal and place it correctly around the pool. Rami studied the shapes carefully. Each piece fit in only one way, but the positions also created a subtle pattern when all were placed correctly. He placed his piece in the first spot, adjusting it slightly. One by one, he added the remaining pieces, each fitting perfectly. The elders observed quietly. When the last piece clicked into place, the pool shimmered with a faint glow, as if acknowledging the completion of the challenge. Rami exhaled, feeling a mix of relief and pride. He had completed all 3 challenges. Lena smiled at him. "You move carefully, but well. The forest does not deceive you easily." Rami returned her smile. "I've learned to watch closely. That helps in strange places." The candidates were led back to the village, where Zira and the council awaited. The elders discussed quietly among themselves, occasionally glancing at Rami. Finally, Zira spoke. "You have faced the trial," she said. "You have shown perception, logic, and courage. The forest has watched you. Your place in the journey is now considered among the tribe's own. Rest and prepare. The final decision will come soon." Rami felt a sense of accomplishment, but he also knew that the most important part had not yet begun. The trial had proven he was capable, but whether he would be chosen to take the journey remained uncertain. As the sun set, Rami sat on his platform, watching the forest glow with the soft light of insects and the reflections of the trees. Lena approached, carrying a small bowl of food. She handed it to him without a word. "Thank you." Rami said. "You are welcome," she replied. "The forest favors those who listen." Rami thought about her words. He had listened to the forest, observed the patterns, and moved carefully. Tomorrow, he would see if that attentiveness and care were enough to earn a place in the journey to the heart of the forest. The day of the council's final decision arrived with the forest bathed in soft golden light. Rami awoke early, his mind alert and focused. He could feel the weight of the choice ahead pressing against him. Today would determine whether he would take part in the sacred journey to the heart of the forest or leave the village and return to the life he had known. Zira appeared at his platform just as the first rays of sunlight touched the treetops. Her expression was calm, but her eyes carried a quiet intensity. "The council meets now," the translation device said. "Follow me, and you will see their final decision." Rami nodded and followed her along the winding bridges. Villagers paused to watch them pass, the hum of activity quieter than usual. The village seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the outcome. They arrived at the great hall, a vast space inside the trunk of the oldest tree. 12 elders sat in their familiar half-circle, their expressions serious and focused. Zira stepped forward, standing before the group, and motioned for Rami to take his place at the center of the circle. The elders were silent for a long moment, their eyes fixed on him. Rami felt the weight of their gaze, but he stood tall, reminding himself of the trial he had completed yesterday. He had faced perception, logic, and courage. He had listened to the forest and moved carefully through its challenges. Now, he could only wait. The silver-haired elder spoke first, her voice calm but firm. The stranger has faced the trial and shown skill and courage. Yet the question remains, can he carry the responsibility of the journey to the heart of the forest? The younger elder with golden markings on her cheeks replied. He has succeeded where others would have hesitated. His mind and spirit have proven strong. Perhaps the forest itself approves of his presence. Another elder, older and with deep blue eyes, shook her head slightly. The journey has always been taken by one of our own. To break this tradition is dangerous, yet we cannot deny the trial. The forest has shown his capability. Murmurs spread through the hall. Some elders looked at each other in quiet debate. Rami could sense their struggle. The decision would not be easy. Zira raised her hand, and the hall grew silent. The trial has shown skill and courage. But the journey is not only about one person. It is about the future of the forest and the unity of our tribe. We must decide wisely. The deep-voiced elder spoke next. Tradition must adapt to circumstance. The forest will guide us if we listen. The stranger has proven his spirit. It is time to consider a new path. Rami felt a flutter of hope but did not dare speak. He could see that even the elders were unsure. Finally, Zira stepped forward, her voice steady and clear. The council has reached a decision. The journey to the heart of the forest will not be taken by one alone. She paused, allowing her words to sink in. It will be taken by two, one from among the tribe and one from outside, whose courage and care have been proven. A hush fell over the hall. Rami blinked in surprise. He had expected to be chosen or rejected. Not to share the honor with someone else. The young warrior Lena stepped forward. Her eyes were bright and her posture straight. I will go, she said. I accept the journey alongside the stranger. Rami felt a mixture of pride and relief. He had completed the trial, but he had not expected this. Sharing the journey with Lena meant he would not face the challenges alone. Together, they could support each other and perhaps succeed where one alone might fail. Zira addressed the council. This decision is unprecedented, but it is just. The forest has guided us, and the trial has shown the strengths of both travelers. You will leave at sunrise. Prepare yourselves and respect the path ahead. The elders nodded, some with approval, others with quiet acceptance. The murmurs of debate faded as the decision settled over the hall. Rami stepped forward. I am honored, he said. I will do my best to honor the forest and your tribe. Lena gave a small nod. Then we leave together, she said simply. The day passed in preparation. Rami and Lena were shown the equipment and supplies they would carry. Each item was light but durable, made from the living materials of the forest. Small containers held water and nourishment. Tools for navigation and protection were carefully selected. The villagers watched quietly as the two prepared. Some offered gestures of encouragement. Others remained solemn, understanding the gravity of the journey. Ahead, the forest itself seemed to respond, with leaves rustling softly as if in approval. As evening fell, Rami and Lena sat together on a platform overlooking the village. The golden light of sunset filtered through the spiraling branches, casting long shadows across the walkways. You did well in the trial, Lena said. The forest watches those who move carefully. It has watched you, and it approves. Rami nodded. I could not have done it without learning from the forest. It teaches patience and observation. I will need those lessons for what is ahead. Lena smiled faintly. The path is alive. It tests not only skill but understanding. We must be ready for anything. Rami felt a calm resolve settle over him. For the first time since his arrival, he felt not only welcome, but part of something larger. He had been tested, observed, and now accepted. The choice of the council had changed everything. That night, he lay on the mat of leaves, listening to the soft hum of the forest. The insects glowed gently, moving through the branches in slow patterns, somewhere in the distance. The river whispered as it ran over rocks. The village was quiet, and yet the energy of anticipation filled the air. Rami thought of the journey. Ahead, the heart of the forest awaited, and with Lena beside him, he felt capable of facing whatever challenges the forest would present. He did not know what dangers or trials would come, but he knew one thing. He would not face them alone. As the first stars appeared in the sky, Rami closed his eyes and allowed himself to rest. Tomorrow, he and Lena would step onto the path that had tested generations of the tribe. Tomorrow, they would begin the journey that would decide not only their fate, but the future of the forest itself. The village slept beneath them, the forest alive and watchful. And somewhere deep within, the heart of the forest pulsed softly, waiting for the two travelers who had proven themselves worthy. Rami knew that when the sun rose, nothing would be the same again. The first light of dawn spilled across the village, painting the spiraling trees with soft gold. Rami rose from the mat of leaves where he had slept, feeling the energy of the forest around him. Today was the day. The journey to the heart of the forest would begin. Lena was already waiting on the platform, checking the light pack on her back and adjusting her braid. She looked calm and confident, but Rami could see the determination in her eyes. Together, they made their way to the edge of the village, where the bridges led into the shadowed depths of the forest. Zira and a group of elders stood at the entrance, their expressions solemn yet encouraging. "The path is alive," Zira said. "It will test both of you, not only in skill but in wisdom. Listen carefully, trust the forest, and trust each other. Remember, the heart of the forest is alive. Respect it, and it will guide you." Rami nodded. "We will be careful." The elders stepped aside, and the two travelers stepped onto the first bridge. It swayed slightly under their weight, but Rami felt steadier than before. He had learned to move carefully, observe, and adjust to the forest's rhythms. Lena walked beside him, each step precise and deliberate. The first part of the path led them through a thick grove of trees, where sunlight barely reached the ground. Strange vines curled around the trunks, and the forest seemed to watch them. As they passed, Rami noticed patterns in the movement of the leaves and the subtle hum of the insects. Each sound, each shift of light, felt like a clue to the correct path. Suddenly, the path forked. Two routes appeared, one wide and clear, the other narrow and shadowed. Rami paused, studying the subtle signs the forest offered. He saw that the wider path had leaves that were darker and slightly decayed, while the narrow path glowed faintly with living energy. "The forest prefers the narrow path," he said quietly. Lena nodded, and they proceeded. The narrow path twisted and turned, forming natural obstacles that required both agility and careful thought. At one point, a large fallen branch blocked their way, balanced precariously over a deep pit. Lena stepped lightly across first, testing its stability. Rami followed, adjusting his balance with each step. Further along, they encountered a pool of water, smooth and reflective. The surface rippled as if it were alive. Carved stones around the edge formed a subtle puzzle. Rami recognized the same logical patterns from his earlier trial. Carefully, he arranged the stones, and the pool shimmered, revealing a hidden path. Across the water, Lena raised her eyebrows in admiration. "You notice things the forest hints at," she said. Rami smiled faintly. "I've learned to watch and listen. The forest speaks if you pay attention." As the day passed, they climbed higher into the forest, the trees growing older and more massive. The air was cooler, and a light mist settled among the branches. At one point, they came across a narrow chasm, bridged only by a single, twisting root. Rami's heart quickened, but he recalled the lessons of patience and careful movement. Step by step, they crossed, feeling the subtle shifts of the living bridge beneath them. By afternoon, the forest challenges grew more complex. They faced sections where the path disappeared entirely, requiring them to rely on instinct, observation, and trust. Rami and Lena worked together, signaling each other with small gestures and moving in perfect sync. Every choice mattered, and every hesitation could cost them time. During a pause near a small waterfall, Lena looked at Rami. "We are close," she said. "I can feel it. The heart is near." Rami nodded, looking around. The forest felt alive in a new way. The trees, the vines, even the air seemed to pulse with energy. "We must stay focused," he replied. The forest will test us until the very end. As the sun began to sink, casting long shadows, they reached the final barrier. A massive tree that rose impossibly high, its trunk twisted with deep grooves and shimmering veins. At its base, a faint light glowed, the heart of the forest. Rami whispered. The final trial required them to climb the tree while solving a sequence of physical and mental challenges. Vines shifted as they climbed, forming ladders and handholds, but also moving unpredictably. Rami and Lena worked together, supporting each other, finding balance. And observing the subtle cues of the living tree. At the halfway point, Lena hesitated. A branch is loose, she warned. Rami adjusted, carefully shifting his weight to stabilize the branch. We can make it if we move together, he said. They continued, trusting each other completely, each step precise and deliberate. Finally, they reached a platform near the top, where a crystalline structure pulsed with light. The heart of the forest, it hovered slightly above a stone pedestal, radiating warmth and energy. Rami and Lena approached slowly, their eyes wide with awe. Zira's voice echoed in Rami's mind through the translation device. Respect the heart. It chooses only those who prove worthy in mind, body, and spirit. Together, they placed their hands on the crystal. A soft wave of energy flowed through them, filling the forest with light and life. The vines round them shifted in harmony. The trees seemed to breathe more deeply, and the insects glowed brighter. The heart had accepted them. They withdrew their hands, smiling at each other. The journey had tested their courage, skill, and cooperation, and they had passed. The forest itself acknowledged their worthiness. As they began their descent, the forest felt different, alive, strong, and welcoming. Birds with translucent wings flew beside them, and the soft hum of life seemed to celebrate their success. When they returned to the village, the elders and villagers gathered, their eyes shining with pride and relief. Zira stepped forward, her expression filled with quiet joy. You have completed the journey, she said. You have honored the heart of the forest, and you have shown courage and wisdom. Your names will be remembered for generations. Rami looked at Lena, and she nodded. Together, they have faced the forest, learned its ways, and succeeded. The villagers celebrated, not with loud noise, but with gentle music, laughter, and the soft hum of the forest itself. Rami realized that he had found a place where courage, intelligence, and respect were valued above all else. That night, as he lay on his mat of leaves, the forest glowing around him, Rami felt a sense of belonging he had never known. The journey had begun as a test, but it had become something more, a connection to life, nature, and a people who had accepted him. The heart of the forest pulsed softly in the distance, a reminder that courage, wisdom, and respect could create bonds stronger than any fear or doubt. Rami closed his eyes, ready to face whatever the future held, knowing that he had earned his place among those who respected and protected the forest. The village slept peacefully, the forest alive and strong, and the two travelers had proven that even an outsider could rise to meet the greatest challenges with patience, courage, and cooperation. The journey had ended, but the story of their courage would echo through the spiraling trees for generations to come.